Chapter 423. At Baron Wilhelm's mansion, all the intruders were dealt with, and nobles raised their voices before Kishir, who had been waiting, and among them one person who attracted attention with an unusual demeanor. Yudhir noticed the pleased expression on Kishir's face as he spoke about a man named Lord Kyold, realizing that he had taken a considerably positive interest in the man. So, after wrapping up the matter, I subtly probed the other nobles to find out about him. Some rather interesting stories emerged. Either felt a strong sign in Kishir's eyes, asking him to quickly ask him what the interesting story was. Either, following his wish, opened his mouth and asked, "What story might that be?" Lord Kyold, like Baron Wilhelm, was once part of Duke of Taine's jurisdiction. Up to a few decades ago, his family, along with Wilhelm's, managed various parts of the western region of Taino. Both families were once prestigious, working hand in hand with the Duke to lead the West. However, Baron Wilhelm's ambition to monopolize power gradually distorted their relationship. By the time of the previous Duke of Taine, this became more pronounced, and eventually the Kyold family lost everything and fell into ruin. Still, the reputation of the family that had long managed Taino remained intact. Even after their fall, the Kyold family did not cease their personal dedication to the West. The current Lord Kyold continued to sponsor the humble temples his ancestors had supported and assisted orphans in becoming independent. He was also quite a renowned scholar. Baron Wilhelm seemed to have often expressed his anger in private, saying that he still thought he mattered in Taino. So, rather than cutting off all ties, he seems to have enjoyed summoning him to events like this to reprimand him, judging by the fact that Lord Kyold came despite expecting to be ignored. He is no ordinary fool either. Although he called Lord Kyold foolish, Kishir's eyes contained a fondness for meeting a desirable talent. "You seem pleased." "Do I?" Smiling, Kishir reached over and brushed Yudhir's forehead. "Yes, I quite like such people, very much so. ... His eyes were candid, and Yudhir knew that such people included him. The phrase "I like" sounded strange all of a sudden, so Yudhir closed his mouth and didn't respond. Tilting his head, the man grinned as if amused by this reaction. "Anyway, I'm actually considering the possibility that Lord Kyold might be one of Pruel Van Taine's sources of secret information. That will become clearer as I investigate further." "That seems highly likely." Pruel had been obtaining a lot of information through friends from his childhood spent in Taino. Who exactly had informed him remained a secret, but the high quality and speed of the information he had acquired thus far indicated that it wasn't just from those working beneath him. "So, after finding out more about him, what do you intend to do?" "Put him to use," Kishir responded without hesitation. I was hesitating a lot about who to recommend for work in the West after Baron Wilhelm's influence waned. I was shamefaced for not having a name to put in a letter to His Majesty, but now I can write with confidence. I cannot tell you how relieved I am. Satisfaction welled up in the crimson eyes. Either quietly contemplated it, thinking, "It really is completely different from my previous life." The western region in his previous life was shattered by the mass emergence of monsters. Rebuilding the West through trade was a policy promised by Emperor Kashtian, but its failure resulted in an endlessly slow recovery. Except for a few nobles who profited from the policy, most lost their homes and wealth. With people becoming destitute, the West turned into a breeding ground for crime, a veritable headache. Even the nobles who had lived there for generations struggled to manage, and it was hard to find anyone willing to take on the task. Among them, Tenu's case was the worst. There were recurring complaints from the Duke of Tane unable to find a suitable person to manage Tenu, his domain. It must have meant that, unlike now, the Duke of Tane had entirely lost the public's favour in the West back then. But if someone like Lord Keolt were to manage Tenu, together with the successor of the Duke of Tane, Pruel's younger sister, it could be reborn into something far better than before. Now, there would be no monster invasions, no shattered cities, no individuals blinded by greed and willing to buy and sell anything. That's good. It would truly be fortunate for the people here. Udir finally felt a weight lifted off his shoulders, and his lips curved into a smile. You must have had a deep attachment to the West, seeing how happy you are, Kishir softly asked. The two locked eyes in the quiet darkness. Ah, I see. Udir suddenly realized that the current Kishir did not know the true cause of his joy. Despite it being a natural thing, a difficult to explain emotion washed over him, and his joy slowly faded. He maintained his silence for a long time before responding in his usual tone. Yes, it seems so. Red eyes stared at his calm lips for a long time. Is anyone there? Get me out. Baron Wilhelm, trapped on the third floor of the security management team's underground dungeon, was somewhat deflated by the fact that no one came despite his shouting all night. Thinking about the previous night was terrifying. The mysterious assailants targeting his life when he was transporting the horses entrusted by the Duke of Tane, the treacherous southern merchant who fled, leaving him behind, and the cavalry who knocked him out without hesitation and threw him here. What enraged him most was, naturally, the last part. Damn lowlifes, how dared they put me here? Although it was somewhat of a misunderstanding, he was practically the master of Tenu, a noble. Even if he was subject to an investigation, it was proper to send him home first. He had never heard of such treatment before. It was the worst. The Baron innocently pondered what he would say once he left this place. In the absence of someone to listen, it was a fruitless effort. But he couldn't help it. The prison was too cold. He had not known that the prison was this cold, even though he had frequented it for so long. The wind seemed to be leaking from somewhere, and no matter how much he wrapped himself in his cloak, the cold wouldn't go away. The stone floor, without a single straw to use as bedding, was so hard and painful that it gave him the shivers to touch it. There was no patrolling soldiers and no one to ask what was going on. He was unable to receive help no matter how much he yelled. He didn't even have anyone to ask what had happened. I must quickly inform Duke Tane of this fact. The auction would have proceeded somehow even without him. It had to. Even if the cavalry brutes had caught wind of words about me, finding evidence would not have been easy. They should not have dared to do this to me just because of the common people's words. If only Duke Tane learns of this fact. Crouched and trembling with only that thought in mind, suddenly there was the sound of a door opening somewhere. The footsteps were not of one person but several. The startled Baron, who jumped to his feet, quickly grabbed the bars and shouted loudly. But moments later, when Baron Wilhelm recognized the ones approaching where he was imprisoned, his eyes widened in disbelief. What is this? ... The ones led by the soldiers, half unconscious and covered in dirt, were known to Wilhelm. They were nobles from the Apito family who had been staying in Tenu for a while due to recent unpleasant events in the capital. Why had those who were clearly supposed to attend yesterday's auction come here in such a state? While Baron Wilhelm was unable to continue speaking, they disappeared into another area without even properly opening their eyes. A short while later, the soldiers who had imprisoned them returned. Only then did the Baron come to his senses and shook the bars again. Hey, listen to me. Quickly release me. Don't you know who I am? I am the master of the house, Baron Wilhelm. At that, the soldiers stopped. One soldier opened his mouth with a calm expression. If you wait a little longer, your turn will come. Others will arrive. What? Wait? What do you mean, wait? Release me. Where is Duke Peleta? Or rather, where is the commander of the Tenno Knights? Why has no one come even though I am here? The soldiers, looking down at his outburst, disappeared without even answering. These people living on the money he provided, how could this happen? He was shocked and shouted for them to come back, but their footsteps quickly faded into the distance. The Baron was left alone once more. Something had definitely gone wrong. Something was undoubtedly wrong, and the fact that he couldn't even know what it was drove him mad. The Baron clenched the bars with a desire to scream in anxiety. It was an eternity later that he was led out of the prison by other soldiers. Goodness, your state is beyond words for just one night. Occupying a space within the security management team prepared for interrogation, Duke Peleta looked back at Baron Wilhelm and smiled, a genuinely ominous and bright smile.